Well, good afternoon, and I say afternoon because it is now 1:50 p.m. and we got here at 10. We spent so long in this RV factory tour with New Camp here in Sugar Creek, Ohio, just talking about RVs and new models and new techniques and things that the entire industry does absolutely crazy. And I hope that this gentleman did not need to go on lunch, because I think our tour was supposed to take a maximum of maybe an hour. But he was super kind. He spent almost 4 hours with us. It's crazy. And if you didn't know this, I actually ask a lot of questions. So, anywho, no, we had a great time here and chit chat, and it was awesome. So we actually took a look at a few new models that they have, and I was very impressed. We used to have a New Camp Cirrus 920 truck camper. It's a sliding truck camper, and really isn't for us. We don't really care for the truck campers any longer, but that was quite an experience. And prior to that, we had a New Camp Avia, and so they actually have a new model kind of similar to the Avia that is sort of, it's interesting to see it and compare it to what we used to have. So anywho, the factory tour, always great to see these, and I gotta say, beats the heck out of anything out of Elkhart. But hey, I'm always open to my mind being changed, and I will take any factory tour because I just find it so fascinating. So today we are going to hit the road. The wind is really something, but the temperatures really aren't too bad. Not too cold today, thankfully. It's supposed to drop in the next day or two. But I'm kind of hoping for a little bit of rain on our drive, just on our drive, just a little bit to soak our rig and, you know, get all the salt off, because, oh my gosh. But we are going to continue west. Let's hit the road. Oh my goodness. So yeah, it is extremely cold here in Jackson Center. It's at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and I think the temperatures are going to drop even further. So we are the only vehicle, no, I just saw one worker out here just buttoning things up here. Yeah, we are the only people out here. There's a bunch of trailers that are in for service. They're just at the Terraport for just storage. The owners are not with them, clearly. Whew, and I don't blame people. Emma and I are the only folks crazy enough when we had our Airstream to actually stay in it when we were here in the winter. Yeah, that was really something. And still, the winds today, quite something. But earlier was t-shirt weather, but now it's freaking, it's gloves and winter coat and beanie weather again. So I think the temperatures they're gonna drop soon. But anywho, I think this is gonna be an uneventful video. We had a nice drive in. Emma is definitely not feeling so good. I think what I had has now transferred to her officially. So yeah, she is just feeling down in the dumps. And yeah, I know it kept me off my feet one entire day, and just still not feeling great these last couple days. Oh my God, look at this. Look at the sky, guys. Look at that. Isn't that just intense? Look at those clouds, man. Oh my goodness. Wow. That is really something. But we have sort of a circuit that we do out here now. I've realized it's now a pattern because we've done this so many times, but every time we're here, you know, I love factory tours. We did the New Camp factory tour today. I think I'd like to do the Airstream tour again. I'm not a big fan of the base camps myself, or the vans. I just don't care about them. But we'll see if Emma's up to doing kind of the regular Airstreams, the typical Airstream travel trailers. We'll see if she's up to doing those in a couple days. But I have a feeling that it's gonna be pretty quiet here in Jackson Center, Ohio over the next few days. It's the weekend and we have the place to ourselves. You guys know I'm a really big fan of solar setups in general, and the quirkier the better, but I think that this one takes the cake. Wow, that is a lot, isn't it? Oh boy. Now, if you're wondering how many watts that is, like a total of 800 watts. It's a lot of work for 800 watts. My gosh, it's cold. Even with this jacket, my hands are frozen. And if you're wondering, our Airstream 345 motorhome friend is still here, and this thing is a freaking beast. That's it's an old classic, I believe in. Oh man. Oh, that guy's been here for a while. Emma is still not feeling well, and she sounds even worse. So we're gonna do a little bit of exploring here. I'll let her drive, and maybe we'll go get a coffee from the Airstream spot. It's a little bit of a splurge, but that's how they get you. No, the arch nemesis of any silver bullet. Branches or hail or... Oh, poor thing. Look at that. That sucks. I almost didn't notice the duct tape work there. Look at that. Oh, that's a shame. Must have been a tree, I'm guessing. Came right down on her. Dang. This Airstream has been here so long, even one of the tires is going flat there. I remember this one from the last time we visited. Oh, someone's dropping off their trailer here on a weekend. Maybe we will have some friends after all. Oh, they put up some flowers now. How cute is that?
They also did the inside of this. Everything we could ever need, we threw it up.
All right, Emma got her Nutella latte, and then we'll just cruise through downtown real quick and take a look. It's just such a cute little town, and the fact that Airstream is headquartered here and there's really not too much else is just so charming. For some reason, I just find it so appealing. Granted, even though we don't own an Airstream anymore, but that Sip and Stream, we were telling them about our channel, and they were asking about our solar panels, and that's kind of nice because I'm a fan of their Airstream, so it's beauty, real beauty. All right, this is the Airstream Club International headquarters. I think we've taken you guys here. This is an old bank, and so yeah, doesn't look like there's anybody here right now, but there's also another building over there. Any WBCCI members? Nope. But very modest buildings for the membership. For anyone wondering, it is 28 out and it feels like 16. Now this is actually the Airstream Nest, which is a kind of defunct project. Clearly they're keeping the molds around, but yeah, they didn't sell super well and they were kind of expensive for what they were, especially at the time. I don't think we showed these before, but it's kind of interesting seeing a little graveyard here, but they're kind of molding over and not looking so hot anymore. But it is so interesting to see that part of Airstream's even recent history. But Airstream has a history with fiberglass, and actually back in the 50s, Wally Byam was investigating the use of fiberglass, the Commodore. Aluminum size fiberglass top, it was lighter, it was very strong, and at the time that was pretty significant and people didn't quite see the benefit. Why not just have an all aluminum trailer? And then they also had another prototype unit, much smaller, that also went defunct. I think there was only 2 ever made. One's actually at the mothership, which is kind of cool, but it is so interesting seeing these here, and people don't realize how expensive these molds are. These molds, you know, especially if you buy them today, about $1 million each, which is just crazy money, right? Just for something that seems so simple. But that's why fiberglass is generally rather expensive, especially when it's molded like this. I just find that kind of interesting. And Airstream HQ. We'll make a stop in there. I always like visiting what they call the mothership here. Oh yeah, check out all the auto camp trailers. These ones are all ready to hit the road. Looks like they're ready to head out and be a fancy Airbnb. Those are so cute. They're kind of plain looking, but that's the one interesting thing. So that's all a reflection on the back of that. That's the cool thing about the aluminum is that it may not be the most durable, you know, and all that, but also I wonder if this one's going to make the museum. Number 68. I bet you we could look up the history of that. Skype pod. That's interesting. I wonder what the history of this was. I bet you the WBCCI knows if it's number 68. Anybody care to inform us if you have access to that? Very curious. It's been here for quite a while now. And that shell is really holding up pretty well. I think this was in the lineup here when all of these units were all totaled. They all had hail damage, but that one was still there, and it's still here now. No, but it's not dinged up like crazy. It doesn't look like, so super cool. Huh, I don't know who Dan Patrick is, but he sure has a pretty trailer, just like ours. Look at that. It's got the blue on the bottom, almost the same color, maybe a slightly more green, but very much the same kind of hue. There's a gold band around it. It looks like orange, and then we've got white, they've got silver. But how cool is that? Oh, it's brand new. It looks like. That's interesting. But win or lose, we celebrate. Dan Patrick's Tailgate. Kind of an interesting pattern on that window too. A little vinyl decal. That's kind of cool. Dan Patrick. Kind of sounds like a good golfing name, kind of like Tiger Woods, right? They make the Atlas motorhome, more of a Class B, and then of course the van motorhomes. And boy, oh boy, are those pricey meatballs. Here's the chassis for all of those. And they're also working on the ProMaster chassis as well. I'm not a fan, but I know some of you guys like those. They're definitely not for me. I think especially for the money that they are charging, I could not justify, one of these. It's a van. At the end of the day, it's a van, There is clearly a market for them, and vans in general have become extremely expensive. I mean, it's what it is, right? Like, people want the convenience, you want the portability. They do fit generally in one spot. I guess the long wheelbase Mercedes, they had about a spot and a half or a spot and a quarter maybe, but like still, if you back in, you can fit into most parking spots. I've noticed. I just even just the shells of these vans are wildly expensive, but at least you can pick one up for 40, 50, 60, 70 grand sometimes, and then they're still paying pretty high prices for these, and they're putting the man hours in and all the equipment and all that good stuff. So I mean, I get it, but there's no doubt that Airstream is very profitable. I mean, they're extremely profitable, even with all the inventory they have and all of this. But I was actually talking to the gentleman at New Camp, super nice guy, and he goes, yeah, somebody was telling me that Airstream was recently bought out by Thor. And that was in relation to the conversation about the quality of Airstreams really not being there. I mean, the end products just don't justify the price, in a lot of our perceptions. And I think more and more people, I think that's kind of becoming a lot more visible lately, especially with social media and especially with more and more people owning Airstreams, right? Because people see Airstream as the pinnacle of the RV world. And in my opinion, they're the most beautiful, no doubt about it. We had our Airstreams long before we had this YouTube channel. And so I just imagine that would have created quite the storm of people with opinions, and that would have been very interesting, I think. Maybe we should rent an Airstream for a while. Show you guys what it's like. My point being, that is actually not true. Airstream has been owned and is only around today because of Thor. So Thor is two people's names. They actually bought Airstream from Beecher's Foods, a food conglomerate owned Airstream. What is that about, right? It didn't make any sense. They were driving it right into the ground. The executive level, I mean, they were taking big salaries, but like the product sucked, right? And so these two investors come in, they bought the company, and they slashed, a ton of the executive team, right? And they were like, look, you guys suck anyways, get out of here. And for the first time, I believe it was a very nice year, they were finally profitable for the first time in quite a while. And so if it weren't for Thor, which Thor was first created because of Airstream, a lot of people don't know that. Airstream wouldn't exist today if it weren't for Thor, right? These two gentlemen. Thor might not exist if it weren't for Airstream and them seeing the potential in the product. And that's quite an interesting thing, right? What would the RV market be like today? I don't know. That's fascinating, And it was a little while after that, that even Avion, they had dropped out. They could not fly. And I think it was Fleetwood actually bought up Avion, and then unfortunately they decided to kill the line. It was one of those, I guess maybe it wasn't so profitable for them, or it was too difficult, who knows? Though we do have a very interesting subscriber who knows just about everything about Avion. But Avion's a company that I wish was still around today, because I think that Airstream needs a competition. I mean, they are such beautiful trailers. You can't beat them. But I think that, like, if you have a competitor that can make a better product, a more durable product, something longer lasting, something that when it's sitting on the dealer lot doesn't have wall panels falling off, right, and trim coming off here and there, and it also helps with the prices and new innovations, and I think that's always a great thing. And it's a shame that Fleetwood bought Avion and still killed it, so that's a bit of a shame. Oh, and look at this beauty. Based on the windows and the configuration, I'm thinking this was an old Argosy. I noticed only the top was painted, the top shells, and there's one on the back, one panel on the back that I'm seeing was also painted. But I'm wondering if someone didn't try to like restore or replace a few panels on that. The Argosy are a very interesting unit, and I bet you they do really well today. But when they were making those in the 70s, they wanted a unit that was more price conscious, right? I think they were a little bit heavier. They were using a thicker, less shiny, less high quality aluminum, but very interesting product nevertheless. And initially, these were not accepted by the WBCCI members. Nobody wanted to allow them in the club until eventually, of course, they did. But it's an Airstream nevertheless, and more of an Airstream than some of the products Airstream has made or tried, you know. Yeah, there's the back of it. You can see the painted shell and all that. Kind of it, oof. Rough wheels, a little bit of rust. Actually, the whole thing looks a little rusty on the bottom. They use steel on the bottom? The aluminum shouldn't do all that. The steel bumpers would be expected in the steel frame. You know, it's funny, every time we're here in this area, I love coming and, I guess not saying hi to, but taking a look at these trailers that they have behind the fence here. Some of these are, you know, employees will store their old trailers that they're restoring, and actually, I recognize at least one of the trailers that is now in the Mothership Museum at the new factory. I recognize at least one of them from there, and what, just beautiful creations. They're little works of art, you know. And the design language and how many panels, for example, this guy has, completely different from the new ones. But they're so cool to see, regardless, you know. And it's almost like they have their own personalities. And especially back in the 40s and 50s, they just had kind of a completely different life of their own. And you sort of, when you learn about Wally Byam, which I think he was quite an impressive human being, no doubt about it, and everybody loved him, you sort of see that spirit in these trailers. And I don't know if it's in the new ones, you know, but regardless, people have this love affair for Airstreams, and I kind of see why. Emma and I have talked about whether we see ourselves ever owning another Airstream, and certainly not a new one. We don't see ourselves owning a new one, but maybe an old one, you know, something like this guy here. Would be really quite a passion project to restore, because not only is the design language just, you know, by default completely different, but the way that you work with the trailers, you know, rivets and metal, completely different from, you know, everything else, and the shape of the entire hull, and like this guy's really quite a short little one, which is, I love that even more. They just feel more quirky, more interesting, more lovable, let's say. Kind of an odd thing, maybe a little dorky, but it is what it is. But anywho, it's Saturday, there's not a whole lot going on out here, and we definitely have the place all to ourselves still from what we saw, so why not? We'll take Colt around a few times, get his steps in, and maybe play the ball for him, you know. Now that I'm all suited up, might as well, right? And just kind of appreciate, especially these old guys, you know, they're just such beautiful little trailers. Even old and kind of forgotten about. I still think they're just beautiful. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.